How's it going, everybody? So Deleter had a great question. What is the history behind the explosion of minted bars in the 1970s? Was it all in the back of the public's reaction to silver being removed from the coinage, which first led to people picking up those U.S. surplus silver bars, creating an industry, and then on to minted bars to capture the attention of the newly silver buying public? Or was there already a silver bar hoarding community prior to that? I think a lot of it with the silver art bars, there's two different kinds. There's these commercial bars, like this Engelhard, and then there's art bars, like this Christmas 1976. And the silver bullion 1 ounce art bars surged in popularity during the 70s due to a unique intersection of economic, cultural, and collector-driven trends. Understanding their appeal requires looking at both a broader economic context and the distinct differences between decorative art bars and plain commercial bars. The main reason I believe that these exploded in the 70s is because of the end of the gold standard in 1971, when President Nixon ended the direct convertibility of the US dollar into gold, effectively ending the Bretton Woods system. It was supposed to be a temporary thing, but they say that, there's nothing more permanent than a temporary government program. So with the end of the Bretton Woods and them, making it so you couldn't convert your dollars back into gold, that led to inflation fears and growing interest among the public in tangible assets, real estate, and mainly gold and silver. Silver was an accessible hedge. Unlike gold, gold was quite a bit more expensive, but silver, you can get a silver bar for like $2. Really cheap. Whereas gold is more like, I think it was around 35 or something like that. So you can, and that was a lot more money back then in the 70s. 35 bucks was a lot more than it is today. It seems like pennies, but especially with how much everything costs these days. So there was, in the 70s, there was a boom in private mints, like the Franklin Mint, Hamilton Mint, Madison Mint. Here's a Madison Mint one right here. And the companies capitalized on both the bullion market, since people were interested in bullion, and then the collector's market. The main differences between things like the art bars. Let me find a different one. This is one I just picked up. Be My Valentine, 1974, from United States Silver Corporation. This is a popular one for people to collect. The art bars are engraved with artistic images, holidays like Valentine's Day, Christmas, historical figures and slogans, like when there was gas shortages and stuff in the 70s. So there was art bars that relied on pop culture and used themes like that. And whereas the commercial bars like these, they just had plain text, minimal artwork, this has got a tiny bit of artwork. Here's a good one. Here's a modern one. These are brand new. Sunshine Minting. These are just considered commercial bars, even though they've got a little bit of art on there. That's just a company logo, basically. Same with the Engelhard company logo. They made these by the bajillions, whereas things like these, this is a more modern one, I believe. Let me find it. Here's a Christmas 1977. This thing is crazy gorgeous. Actually, I wrote down some other stuff. I've been reading, so if you can't tell, I'm reading notes, which I normally don't do. Let me see if I can put this where I can see it. Christmas 77, this is a Madison Mint. I'm trying to get it out of the little plastic thing. I take them out of the plastic sleeves and put them in these capsules. Look at how high the relief is on this ornament up here. Madison Mint. And so I lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, so they made lots of the commercial bars, and these they would make in limited mintages. So a high mintage for art bars is about 10,000. Let me look up this Madison Mint while I have you. Christmas 1977 is Mad 175. This book is super handy. This is Archie Kidd's 5th edition guidebook for silver art bars. It's got a horrible picture, but this is it here. You can't really tell because the photography is horrible on this. This one doesn't even have the mintage on it. But let me show you here, Mad 175. Christmas 1977. It's from 1977. Type 4 and the rarity value of 3, which means about $5 to $10 over spot. I'm not going to bore you with looking up every bar. That would be that'd be a whole video in itself. But like with silver art bars, like with the Hamilton Mint, they would make 10,000 of each one of their bars, and then they would gold plate an additional 5,000. So they had really low mintages. Whereas, I mean, I don't know how many they made of these. Maybe 250,000. Other one might be 400,000, 100,000. Much higher mintages. Let me see if there's anything else here. Here's another Madison Mint. I have a lot of Madison Mint stuff. This is the High Wheeler. So this is a reference to an old-timey bicycle. So the minting style. A lot of times the art bars were limited mintage, serialized, numbered, and then these. I mean, these are mass produced. They've made millions of these. So the art bars also, they come in several different themes. I've got Halloween themed ones here. So they've got bicentennial themes, Santa Claus. Here's a Hamilton Mint one. They made about 10,000 of these. I actually had to modify the capsule. See how it's kind of grubby there? Because these are a little bit longer and narrower than other ones. So Halloween is my favorite time of year. So I'm going to try and fill this whole box with vintage Halloween art bars. What else? So yeah, so there was Halloween themes, Christmas themes, every holiday you can think of, Thanksgiving, Valentine's Day. I showed one of these. And the commercial bars, these were just text. And they usually the commercial bars didn't have as high of a premium. So like an art bar, these could be like I actually paid $5 over spot for this. Whereas the Engelhardt stuff, this will probably normally be maybe $2 more than just a generic one. So pretty low premiums on Engelhardt stuff, unless you get like a super collectible one. I don't really quest for Engelhardt stuff. There is a collector market for this where they look at the serial numbers and all the different variations of them. And that's more of a newer phenomenon that's happened since probably maybe 6 years ago is when it started getting more popular. I remember I wasn't very interested in the vintage stuff before. I had a lot of it because I picked up a lot of it during the great financial crisis, because everything had run out. Everybody had bought up all the silver eagles. That's a nice looking one. And so I would just buy vintage, because I would go to the coin shops and I'd say, hey, you got any silver? And they're like, no, just this old stuff. And I'm like, all right, well, I'll take some, because I was still buying way back then even. And I didn't think much of it. And I sold a lot of my vintage stuff, my larger vintage bars, because I was just trying to kind of thin out the herd a little bit. And I wanted some money for some other stuff. I'd moved across the country and wanted to access some cash. So I figured I'd sell my ugly silver. So I sold the vintage stuff, which hindsight is 20/20. I wish I could go back and get it back, but it's gone. So since then, in recent years, I'd started really liking all the artwork, the nostalgic feel from the 70s. The Halloween ones especially, because I was a kid in the 70s, and I remember going trick-or-treating, and that was like the most amazing time to be a kid. It's Halloween. Go trick-or-treating. I still remember the feeling like when you go to a house and the person in the house, they would hand out the full-size Snickers bars, the big ones, the ones you get in the gas station. And I remember that was so amazing that you'd instantly run down the street where you knew your other friends were. You was like, hey, this house over here, they're handing out the full-size ones. And so all your friends would run over there to get the full-size candy bars. I remember that feeling. And to this day, for trick-or-treaters, when they come to my house, they get full-size candy bars. I go to Costco and get a couple boxes of the full-size candy bars. I end up eating about half of them because we don't get that many trick-or-treaters. So, what else can I say about it? The art bars were popular because the affordability and beauty. They combined the economic security of bullion with artistic flair, making them attractive as gifts and personal keepsakes. Marketing innovation. Mints produced theme series, limited runs, encouraging repeat buying and collecting, and they still do that to this day with things like the Queen's Beast series from the Royal Mint. Those are coins. I get caught up in trying to collect that kind of stuff, and I'm trying to resist it. I like mainly the vintage stuff, and that's mainly because of the nostalgic feel. There's a numismatic cross appeal for these things. So I'm trying to think of a more collectible one. I've got one Halloween bar here. You wouldn't think it'd be collectible because it's not very, this one here, you wouldn't think this would be that collectible. It's kind of boring when you compare it to some of these other artistic designs. Look at this. See how beautiful and how much artwork is involved there. And this colorized one, got this one from the Asset Stacker. Super cool and interesting. And yet this one, probably worth about $100, where these other ones might be, worth only maybe $10 over spot. So there is a numismatic appeal there. So if you are a collector and like collecting, things that go up in value, the art bars scratch that itch. They do have a cultural reflection. So there's stuff, as I said before, about the gas rationing back in the 70s. There's bars that depict like cartoon caricatures of people standing in or waiting in long vehicle lines. There's this one is a Israel Silver Anniversary, 1943 to 1973. This one's United States Silver Corporation. All right. Yeah, so the pop culture stuff and all that, but I think the main driver was Richard Nixon taking us off the gold standard. In the 1980s, it started to decline. There were several factors contributing to that. The silver prices spiked in 1980, due in part to the Hunt brothers attempting to corner the silver market, and that led a lot of people to liquidate. A lot of this stuff got melted then because, if you're getting $50 an ounce for these things that you paid $2 for, yeah, a lot of people are going to sell them. They call it the Great Melting. People were melting their sterling silverware, their family silverware, which is kind of crazy. And so the novelty kind of wore off as the market became saturated by the 80s. I guess serious investors, they would gravitate more towards the larger bars, coins, commercial bars, and then of course the ETFs, which we know is not backed by anything. But that's a quick analysis of why I think these the silver art bars are so popular, and why they exploded in the 70s. And they're still making silver art bars to this day. There's small private mints. Sunshine Mint still makes Halloween bars and Christmas bars, bars for every occasion. It's just that I think most of the people want these ones. the ones from the 70s, because these are survivors. These survived the great melting of the 80s. So they do have an additional collector appeal, because after that there was not really a big threat of who cares if these get melted. And this one I might actually melt. This is a brand new bar, and I wanted to try out I've got a melting furnace, so I want to melt some of the generic cheap stuff that's still minted to this day to try to do my own poured silver art. But anyway, hope this helps. Feel free to add any comments down below, what you think I missed, or any points that you thought I hit nail on the head or missed the mark altogether. Anyway, I hope you guys are having an awesome day. I gotta clean this up and put the silver, or the Christmas ones, in the Christmas box, and the other ones in other boxes. Anyway, I hope you guys are having an awesome day, and I'll see you in the next video. Later.